Brilliance Audio presents Dynasty of Death by Taylor Caldwell, performed by Peter Noble. Author's note. All the characters in this novel, except figures obviously historical, and all incidents, situations, armament companies and other industrial companies, and localities mentioned, are fictitious and do not relate to any persons, living or dead, and any possible coincidences are accidental and unintentional. Book 1. Partners of Death. You are partners of death. I want no part in it. Chapter 1. The twilight was like deep, pale water, standing movelessly over the countryside and the long, low hills. It was a medium that held everything motionless and transfixed, not a rigid motionless, but a sleeping quiescence, or as though all things had lost the robust body of the day and had become liquid and vaporous dreams, that should the pale medium that held them be disturbed by even a ripple of air, they would blur together, dissolve, dissipate into silent and spreading rings of water. There was no definite colour in this silent and prolonged spring landscape. All was dim purple, shadowy greys merging into dim blacks, whites spectral and diffused. The meadows, covered by acres of tiny March daisies hugging the soil, were whitish and elusive with a rising mist. The purplish hills were scuttled out at the base by this mist, so that they seemed rather a long, baseless ridge of dusky clouds against a western sky that was all dreamlike pale green, cold and unfading. Here and there a lone tree seemed to float on a lonely field, bending its new burden of leaves as if weighed down by a wind too heavy to move. Occasional fences were made of black cobwebs. Over everything was a profound, yet vaporous melancholy, drenched by moisture. The deep, hollow lowing of cattle rolled across the meadows, not with the suddenness that attends a more pellucid air, but rather as though it were thunder, starting almost inaudibly at a distance and increasing imperceptibly into an all-embracing and imminent sound. Across the meadows came the indistinguishable blur of their plodding forms, white and spotted, dogged and docile. Behind them tramped a buxom milkmaid, her heavy cloak blowing heavily about her, her head bare to the watery coolness of the twilight. Around her jumped a shaggy shepherd dog, whose occasional barking sounded thin and unreal. As if their coming were a signal, sudden yellow lights glowed in the dusk, giving evidence of human habitations, without making their outlines more distinct. The cattle had reached a closed gate, and milled together patiently, lowing more deeply. The milkmaid opened the gate. She had begun to whistle, tonelessly between her teeth. The dog barked irately, dashed through the gate as it began to open. A little boy paused in the road beyond. The milkmaid peered at him. "Be that you, Martin Barbour?" she called. The little boy politely pulled off his round black hat and quavered an answer. He came to the fence as though with great and fearful resolution, staring at the cattle which lumbered through the gate. "Still afeard of the poor beasties, Martin?" asked the milkmaid in a jeering but kindly voice. She was an illiterate and buxom wench, but she was unusually shrewd and understanding. "And there he stands, every evening coming from school," she would relate.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?